So, hi. Good to see so many people here. My mom would be proud. She still doesn't really understand what I do, but she'd be very proud. So, quick thing about me. I'm Ekaterina, currently data engineer at MediaTek, and I work with data pipelines, dbt, Airflow, the usual stuff. So, self-taught, which means I've broken more things than I like to admit. And I have a very complicated relationship with the library source code, which is what we're here to talk about. So, library dismantling. I have a strong feeling that after this talk, I will be escorted out in cuffs by Python purist police. But let's start in the beginning. So, a couple years ago, I was freshly baked, self-taught data analyst who was obsessed with Streamlit. For those who don't know, it's a Python library for visualizing data and building lightweight UIs just in Python. So generally, very fun and easy to use. So I was building Streamlit apps left and right at my first job. At one point, to make my little data apps legit in a big corporate environment, I was told to implement LDAP authentication. So I did what any reasonable person would do. I found a library. And I did almost exactly what I wanted. The main beauty of it was a simple login page that disappeared after the login, but the user stayed in the session. So perfect. Well, almost. One downside. The authentication method was not configurable. It was just not a feature. So, question for the audience. What do you think? What decision was made when an almost perfect library doesn't do one small thing you need? And there will be options. Please raise your hands. I'm genuinely curious. So, A, I spent 2 weeks building the login page from scratch myself. So many people. Okay, B, I spent 2 weeks building a 1,000-line workaround just to glue the library to the project. A little bit more people. Okay, so I raised very detailed, very polite GitHub issue and waited some more, and then just gave up, left the job and the country. Okay. And the last one, I changed the source code and proudly posted about it on LinkedIn. So the proof still lives on the internet. But to tell the truth, all the options from the questionnaire have appeared in my journey at some point, and I'd say in anybody's. So, how the crime was committed. So, I copied the whole library source code and just changed one method, leaving all the rest untouched. For those who are already thinking, well, that definitely can't stay long enough in production. The app ran for 1.5 years and was deprecated not because of the notification, but for some unrelated issues. And what I've learned from this is that libraries are not black boxes. It's just code written by humans. But deep down inside, I have a little feeling that I did something wrong. Let's call it what it is. I changed one method. It's not vandalism, it's basically a fork. And forking a library is completely normal. It's like open source works. Somebody built something, you needed to do one little thing, so you take it and change it to your use case. The ecosystem runs on it. But what is the difference between what I did and the proper fork. So a proper fork lives on GitHub, has a README, maybe a few stars, and you can point your requirements.txt at it. What I did is I took the code to my repo. There is no stars and just one contributor, but same outcome, but just a little bit less discoverable. Then why it felt illegal? Well, there's quite some trade-off. You can't really ignore when you stand on the path of creating a custom solution. First, you're freezing the library, so there's no updates ever. What if the official version ships the feature you want in the next release? What if there is a security fix? You will never know, because now you're having your own copy. The second one, and maybe the most painful one, now you're owning the maintenance, which in isolation is kind of fine. You know the code, you understand it, you can fix it. But your team lead won't see it that way, because it's a knowledge silo and no SIEM manager would sign off on a critical dependency that lives in one person's head. And they're like right not to. And the third is onboarding problem. What used to be a simple pip install in any environment is now a custom module path, a command that only works if you know how it works. New developer joins, spins up the project, run the standard setup, nothing works, and you have to explain again why this library is different every single time. So it seems a lot of work for a simple customization. Another example, and a little bit of context. Those who work with data probably know about pipeline orchestrator Airflow, data modeling tool dbt, and a nice library Cosmos that seamlessly connects the two. The beauty of Airflow, and probably my favorite feature, is that it can schedule pipelines on data readiness by task producing and consuming dataset events. So Cosmos does have this functionality, but in the version we had, it didn't work, and it was a known feature. And I won't repeat the audience questionnaire, but yeah, the options were kind of the same. But it wouldn't be me if I would look under the hood. And it turned out that Cosmos does simple project config JSON parsing into AST-like objects that can be reused outside the main library API. For example, dbt node. You're not seeing it when you're creating DAGs and tasks, but it's there representing your model object, just waiting to be reused. So that's what I did. Extending the main functionality with a tiny custom plugin using the inner parts that were already there. And what happened to this solution? Well, the feature was fixed in the newer version. So it lived less than a year and will be deprecated when we adopt the native method. But no hard feelings, it was a crutch we needed, but not anymore. So summing up, when you're extending the library, you're not maintaining the whole library fork, but just a small addition. And at this point, it doesn't need any sorry, not sorry tag, because it's safe enough to build, and what's more important, it's safe enough to delete. So how do you actually read the library? So same way you debug your own code. So go straight to the pane. Like, don't read the whole thing from the top. Open the repo, find the method that's failing you, start there. And if it's not enough, follow the thread. That method calls something, that something else calls something else. Keep going until you find the pain point. and try to look for something familiar, because you're not reading the alien code. Somewhere in there is a pattern you've seen before. And if you hit a wall, ask AI not to write your code, but to just explain what you're looking at. Now, at this point, my lawyer, I don't have a lawyer, would want me to mention the proper ways to mess with library's code. And my personal disappointment is that in 99% of the cases, the smartest way is not to touch anything. So before anything else, read the code again, search again, check if the newer version fixes it, or even look for a better package that does the job. Maybe the solution is out there, but you just missed it. And even if it looks like giving up, well, it's not, it's due diligence. And it saves you from spending weeks building something that will be shipped in the next minor release. So raise an issue, open a PR. This is the most underused superpower in open source. If you found a bug or missed a feature, write it up. So, and even if nobody will respond, you've documented it for yourself, for the person who hits the same wall, because often when you drained all the search options like AI, Google, Stack Overflow, documentation, you end up reading those issues just to know that you're not imagining things. And sometimes that's where you find your answer, or at least a workaround. Become a maintainer. This one's a little bit far-fetched, but let's be real. We do get obsessed with tools. Some niche library that we discovered 3 jobs ago is still in our toolkit. So you know its quirks, its edge cases, its weird behavior. So you probably know more about it than the person who wrote the library. 1 second, please. Okay, thank you. But realistically, maybe for most people in this room, probably not the first goal on their list. But knowing that the path exists, it changes how you look at the libraries you use every day. Or maybe you can build your own library. So, last story for me today. I promise I've roasted myself enough for years to come. When you wait long enough, you get pissed off enough to build your own library. A couple of years ago, again with dbt, I faced the problem of manually creating schema YAML files for dbt models. Why dbt or any other tool can't generate these YAML files when the data is already there? It's there, just generated. So after several drafts of internal tools that I will never see again and my coworkers will never use again, I decided it should be a separate Python package. And the moment I decided that, I discovered that there is another package that does the job, but it didn't stop me. And I built a semi-working, lightweight package for the problem anyway. It's called dbt schemify, and all it does is generating schema YAML files in your project. And yes, your AI coding assistant can do it like in 5 minutes, but this one doesn't cost you any tokens, so it's basically free. Was it the most production-ready solution there is? Well, no. Did it solve my problem? Yes. Did building it teach me more about how libraries work? Absolutely. But same question here. Are you committed enough to maintain something others depend on? Because that is a different question from, can I build this? Like, anybody can build this. The harder question is whether you want to be the person who owns it, even at 11 p.m., even on a Friday night, when somebody's pipeline broke. So look, I'm not saying go and break things. I'm not saying ship the curse code to production and post it about it on LinkedIn. Well, you can if you want to. What I'm saying is the thing you've been treated like a black box has a GitHub repo. It has a README, function classes, for loops, written by someone who also was just figuring it out. The distance between you and the code is not a talent, it's not seniority, it's just the decision to open the file. And every library you depend on was written by human, hopefully, probably under the deadline, probably with a few to-dos on the list, probably with some comments, fix this later, somewhere in the code base. You're allowed to read it, you're allowed to understand it, and yes, you're allowed to change it. So the worst case, you've learned something. The best case, you solved your problem or your team's problem. So open the file, dismantle it, even only mentally. You just go. So thank you.